Hello, I'm Nick Talley. I'm a gastroenterologist and a professor at the University of Newcastle, and welcome to the launch of the Centre of Research Excellence in Digestive Health. The Centre is all about translating research back into clinical practice so we can improve the diagnosis and treatment of patients with chronic gut disorders. And we're very much focused on common gut disorders. For example, the irritable bowel syndrome, functional dyspepsia, celiac disease, gastroesophageal reflux disease, and a number of other common but very important conditions. The work of this centre, which is a multi-disciplinary centre, it encompasses groups from across Australia and from around the world, and our goal is to improve the diagnosis and to improve the treatments for common gut disorders, and also to train professionals in the future who will be the researchers and the clinicians who actually lead the field in these problems in the future. It's really great to have you here. We include in the centre the voice of the patient as well as the voices of researchers, academics, doctors, nurses, other allied health professionals from across many fields, because all of these people make a difference and contribute to the care of patients with common, often unexplained, currently gut disorders. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your participation in this event today.
In all Western countries, we see increasingly patients with digestive diseases. Many patients develop inflammatory bowel disease, and others have chronic relapsing symptoms that severely impact on quality of life. In addition, 1 out of 10 in the Australian population will experience a colon cancer in their lifetime. All these are good reasons why we need an NHMRC Centre of Research Excellence in Digestive Health. Here in Brisbane, we have the Princess Alexandra Hospital, which is one of the largest hospitals in Australia. The Department of Gastroenterology is one of the largest departments with a very diverse portfolio of services. We have hepatologists, we have gastroenterologists, we have neurogastroenterologists, we have specialists in the field of inflammatory bowel disease, and in addition, we have allied health specialists like psychologists, dietitians, exercise physiologists who bring together their expertise to care for our patients. We have adjacent to the hospital one of the best research institutes, the Translational Research Institute, which provides us the capabilities and the infrastructure to do cutting-edge research. One of the priorities are the so-called functional gastrointestinal disorders. These are patients who have symptoms which are not explained when the routine diagnostic tests are applied. These patients frequently severely suffer from their symptoms, and the objective is to change the outcomes of these patients. And we have a variety of very promising approaches. On the one hand, we want to explore what is the role of the immune system and what is the role of the gastrointestinal microbiome, and we have very specific expertise here in Brisbane. The other side is how can we better treat these patients, and we are developing new treatment modalities who are effective and cost efficient, and it is not sufficient simply to do more of the same, but we truly have to innovate how we deliver services to our patients. And this project with the research approaches which are novel and highly innovative holds a promise to change how we will treat patients in the future.
Hi, I'm Professor Mike Jones from Macquarie University. I'm going to talk to you about the impact of gastrointestinal conditions on the community and what our Centre of Research Excellence is planning on doing about them. The functional gastrointestinal disorders, which include well-known conditions such as irritable bowel syndrome and functional dyspepsia, are an enormous problem for our society. They affect around 1/3 of the Australian population at any given point in time. The people who are affected by these conditions experience any combination of pain, bloating, inability to finish meals, amongst a myriad of other symptoms. And because these conditions are so prevalent and tend to run in families, they can become somewhat normalised. And so not every affected individual thinks to go and seek healthcare for them, even though they could. And so what doctors see, what our healthcare system sees, is just the tip of the iceberg. This is a substantially hidden problem. But when you yourself or someone you know personally suffers from these conditions, like irritable bowel syndrome, you know just how serious it is and just how much they affect that person's life. An intriguing line of research is that these conditions seem to be both affected by certain psychological states and to, in turn, affect a person's psychological well-being. This includes reduced quality of life, less being able to enjoy life and take part in normal activities of daily living. It also means more days off work due to illness, which affects both that individual person and society through lost economic productivity. So far, we know lots and bits and pieces of this puzzle. We know, for example, that certain psychological traits seem to predispose individuals to these disorders. We know that they disproportionately affect women, that individuals suffering from them have more anxiety, tend to be more depressed, amongst a number of other psychological states. We also know that these conditions affect psychological well-being. What we do not have, however, is a clear roadmap as to how these associations occur. And that is one of the key aims of our Centre of Research Excellence, is to better understand how these mind-gut connections work in order to be able to intervene in the process to reduce the suffering felt by these individuals and to reduce the cost to society. We will do this through carefully designed studies that allow us to study causal pathways between the mind and the gut and the reverse, and to finally be able to answer these mechanistic questions. This, we hope, will lead to more effective treatments and possibly preventions for these crippling conditions. What we hope the future holds as a result of the work being undertaken by this program of research is that individuals in our society are able to access healthcare which specifically targets the underlying causes of the symptoms that affect them, because we have a better understanding of these baffling conditions. We cannot promise to rid our community of the suffering caused by these conditions, but we are confident of making a real difference to real people.
The benefits of the CRE are expected to be coming up with cures rather than treatments of symptoms for painful gastrointestinal symptoms which escape diagnosis at the current point in time. And by developing new knowledge and understanding, provide strategies in diagnosis and treatment that have scientific, medical and commercial value. I'm excited to be at the Translational Research Institute because it brings together interests and expertise from universities, the hospital sector, as well as industry partners to look at what are the most bearing issues of the day with respect to gastrointestinal symptoms. And through the Centre for Research Excellence in Digestive Health, develop tools and approaches that help those in the clinic and GPs to better diagnose, understand and treat these painful conditions, to reverse or even cure people. The gastrointestinal tract of all animals is colonised by a metabolically and functionally diverse community of microorganisms. And while we've long recognised their relevance and importance, our capacity to learn and understand what contributions and interactions they have with our genetics, the environment we live in and our lifestyle choices and as a result impacts our overall health and well-being has been very difficult to study and understand. So it's really been the advent of new technologies and approaches that move us in part away from the small fraction of microbes we can culture in the lab to using a range of new tools for the culture-independent characterisation of these microbial communities that adds a new frontier to the medical research.
Hello, I'm Professor Imad Elomar, the Professor of Medicine at the St George and Sutherland Clinical School, part of the University of New South Wales. I'm also the Director of the Microbiome Research Centre here at St George and the Editor-in-Chief of the journal Gut. I'm delighted to be an Associate Investigator with the Centre for Research Excellence in Digestive Health, which is led by Professor Nick Talley and his colleagues. It's wonderful to collaborate with these excellent researchers and scientists, as well as gastroenterologists. And indeed, we pledge all the support and help we have here at the Microbiome Research Centre. We have an interest in a number of GI diseases, including inflammatory bowel disease, functional GI disorders, and a variety of different cancers. Our expertise spans any aspect of the microbiome, be it the design of studies, the protocols for analysis of samples, as well as bioinformatics. So we will do our best to support this excellent CRE. Thank you very much.
My name is Simon Keeley. I'm Professor of Immunology and Microbiology at the University of Newcastle and Head of the Gastrointestinal Research Laboratory at NHMRC as part of the CRE of Digestive Health. The immune system plays a pivotal role in recognising the microbes that live in our gastrointestinal tract and responding to food and toxins that we eat in our diet and are exposed to every day. For some GI conditions like celiac disease and inflammatory bowel disease, the roles of these immune cells in disease is pretty clear cut. But for many people who suffer from functional GI disorders like the irritable bowel syndrome and functional dyspepsia, the roles of these immune cells are unrecognised or ignored altogether. Our work at the CRE has recognised the importance of these cells in contributing to the pathology of these diseases, and our work is examining how these cells contribute to the disease and how they can be examined and detected to better understand how to treat these conditions.
Wise dietary advice is a key part of integrated behavioural approach to good gut health. Unfortunately, there are dietary recommendations galore in the printed and digital media. Dr. Google can be quite misleading. While most of us have little evidence, most of these methods have little evidence to back them up, it is difficult for patients and doctors alike to separate the fact from fiction. The principal aim of our work is to provide evidence of food choice that patients should consider so that they effectively ameliorate symptoms and improve outcomes and maintain a healthy microbiome. And at the same time, minimise food restrictions and optimise nutrition. Our first iteration of this, the FODMAP diet, has been very successful, but there is more to come.
Hi, my name's Jeff Coombs. I'm a Professor in Clinical Exercise Physiology at the University of Queensland and one of the Chief Investigators on the Centre for Research Excellence in Gut Health. My research focuses on exercise and its benefits for people with chronic medical conditions, and a question that patients often ask is, how will exercise impact on a gastrointestinal condition or a liver disease that they may have? And unfortunately, the impacts of exercise on gut health and liver disease are extremely under-researched areas. While we know a lot about how exercise decreases the risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes, improves mental health, bone health, musculoskeletal function, we know comparatively little about the effects of exercise in people with GI conditions and liver disease. We do know that it's very complicated due to the diversity of GI conditions that are out there. Additionally, people have other problems that can impact on benefits of exercise for their condition, and also the different types of exercise, resistance exercise versus aerobic exercise, And then the intensity of the exercise can also complicate this question about how exercise might impact on the gastrointestinal condition. For example, we do know that low and moderate intensity exercise is very well tolerated in people with the conditions and will certainly benefit for people that have an inflammatory bowel disease and liver disease. Physical activity can also improve gastric emptying, lower the risk of colon cancer, which is extremely important. However, when the intensity gets higher, severe, high-intensity exhaustive exercise, that can cause problems for people with GI conditions. It can inhibit gastric emptying, interfere with absorption, and even cause bleeding in the gut in some people. So it really becomes a complicated question, and we really need to know more. In the CRE, we're going to conduct randomised controlled trials to answer some of these questions. We're going to use multi-disciplinary approaches, including nutrition and psychology interventions, that will look at how exercise may benefit people with a range of gastrointestinal conditions and liver disease. And this evidence is certainly going to better help us answer the question of how exercise will impact on a person's gut health.
The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Physical and psychosocial well-being are linked to one another. Better physical health helps alleviate the symptoms of depression. On the other hand, mental health issues such as anxiety can lead to poor physical health. While the cause of gut health problems is multifactorial, psychological factors such as depression and anxiety are known to play an important role. Thus, we need to adopt a holistic approach in the understanding and management of people with gut health problems. This holistic approach is characterized by the care of the whole person, including symptoms of gut disease and psychosocial factors. An effective integrated care approach includes the collaborative use of medications, treatment, and psychosocial interventions to improve gut health and quality of life of people with gut disease. The Center for Research Excellence for Digestive Health will develop an integrated multi-disciplinary model of care for people with gut health problems. We will involve medical specialists, nurses, general practitioners, psychologists, dietitians, and exercise physiologists in the team. We will also engage with people suffering from gut health problems, as well as the families and carers, to better understand the symptoms, needs, and concerns, which will facilitate improved integrated care and therapeutic strategies. Further, the Center will create a platform for knowledge transfer and education of patients, clinicians, and researchers aimed at improving management of gut health and patients' quality of life. We look forward to your support.
My work at the Centre for Research Excellence in Digestive Health involves applying functional brain imaging to better characterise how the mind impacts and is impacted by functional gastrointestinal disorders. We know that psychiatric symptoms, including depression and anxiety, are elevated in these conditions, but the relationship is complex. Anxiety and depression are both caused by gastrointestinal disorders and also exacerbate their expression. By better understanding the evidence base which differentiates patient phenotypes, we hope to improve personalised medicine treatments.
The Center for Research Excellence is very important for myself and for all budding academic gastroenterologists or junior researchers, and the reason is I started my PhD while I was undergoing my training in gastroenterology, and I was fascinated by how I could translate the research that was centered around my PhD, characterizing the role of gastrointestinal microbiome in health and in functional gastrointestinal disorders from bedside into clinical practice. the CRE will actually give many people like myself and other budding researchers opportunities to pursue research in this area of extreme unmet needs, that's functional gastrointestinal disorders, which clearly impacts the lives of many Australians and people worldwide.
Hi, I'm Grace Burns, a PhD candidate at the Centre for Research Excellence in Digestive Health. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about how we diagnose gut problems. Diagnosis of gut disease begins with the doctor taking a detailed history of the problem. What are the symptoms that you have? How long have they been present? How is your general health? After an examination and consideration of these findings, they will plan to do tests to establish a diagnosis. These can be pathology, such as blood tests to exclude, for example, anemia, and doing an endoscopy, which looks directly at the lining of the gut with a camera. In this process, small biopsies of the gut lining can be taken to examine under the microscope. This is to exclude pathologies like cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, and celiac disease. Recently, new insights into the changes in the gut lining in functional dyspepsia and irritable bowel syndrome have been found, and link these to subtle changes in cell composition, particularly with eosinophils, which is similar to what we see in allergy. This is exciting work done for the Centre of Research Excellence in Digestive Health, and these discoveries may lead to new treatments to help cure gut disease by targeting pathology directly.
My name is Mika Vidri. I'm a general practitioner and Professor of General Practice at the University of Queensland in Brisbane, Australia, where I also head the main Academy of General Practice and the Primary Care Clinical Unit, which looks after the primary care component of the curriculum for our medical students. I'm really excited to be part of the Centre of Research Excellence in Digestive Health. As a clinician, as a general practitioner, digestive health plays a really important role in my clinical practice. In fact, digestive problems are among the top 5 reasons for encounter in general practice. And like my colleagues, I also have a number of patients, particularly with chronic digestive issues that are really challenging. And that's mainly because we do not have an adequate answer to their problems, and we do not know how to adequately manage it. These patients have often been to a large number of specialists, have spent a lot of time and money on lengthy and expensive diagnostic examinations, have tried lots of different medications and other treatments, and end up back in general practice working with their GP to manage their lives and the complexity that the condition often adds to their lives. We know a lot more about the interplay now of and the role that the digestive system plays in not only physical health but also our immune system and our mental health, and that is something that we see in general practice and that we strongly relate to. So bringing those different areas and multiple disciplines together to try and understand better what the underlying foundations are of functional disorders is going to be really, really helpful. And general practice can contribute to that. As a researcher, I'm also particularly keen on the translational part of the work of the CRE. As we know that generating evidence is really important, but that very often it takes a long time before that evidence is actually used at the coalface in clinical practice and can make a real impact in people's lives. So what we have learned over the last couple of decades, focusing on implementation and translation, and also in my work in research, will help us speed up that process and ensure that the evidence we generate gets translated in a fit-for-purpose way, and that we build the structures and supportive policies and procedures that enable clinicians to use the findings and the new knowledge and really make an impact and improve the quality of our patients' lives.
Hello, I'm Dan Kent, a consumer and a digestive tract cancer survivor living in the Tweed in northern New South Wales. I'm pleased to be invited to become associated with this Centre for Research Excellence in Clinical Health, as health and research are close to my heart. After reviewing the aims of this CRE and noting the national and international institutions and individuals involved, I know that the Centre will produce outcomes that will be translated into policy or practice, which will be of benefit to patients. I also know that consumers can meaningfully contribute to research through their lived experience, and in my instance, also having lived with a digestive tract cancer and being involved with digestive tract and research groups. Currently, I am and have been since formation the consumer member of the Queensland Health statewide gastroenterology clinical network. I am and have been since formation in 2017 the consumer member of the National Cancer Screening Program Registers Quality Committee. Since 2008, I've been involved with the Australasian Gastrointestinal Trials Group, the AGITG, and the Gastrointestinal Cancer Institute. And finally, since formation in 2018, I have been a member of the Australasian Clinical Trials Alliance, ACTA, their Consumer Involvement Guidance Working Group. As a member of this group and a steering group, we produced and launched in 2019 the Consumer Involvement and Engagement Toolkit for use by researchers in the community. I look forward to my association with this Centre for Research Excellence in Digestive Health.
Here at Aussie Inc, we're a charity dedicated to improving lives affected by eosinophilic disorders. We cannot be more pleased that the Centre for Research Excellence in Digestive Health has received funding from the NHMRC to conduct research into finding better ways to diagnose and treat people living with eosinophilic disorders. Our members and patients will directly benefit from the important work of this Centre of Research and Excellence, and we look forward to sharing new treatment discoveries with our members. Eosinophilic gastrointestinal disorders, EGIDs, affect people of all ages and gender. Personally, my 17-year-old daughter Bella was diagnosed with esophagitis, EOE, the most common type of EGID, in 2005 when she was 18 months old, after failing to thrive from 4 months old. Whilst her diagnosis journey took just over a year, this is relatively short compared to what many others endure. She subsequently had a gastrostomy feeding tube in place from age 7 to 11, which are among our most difficult years. Our members share their stories to help raise awareness, and the time to a diagnosis and their treatment journeys vary greatly. Nyoka shares how it took 16 years for her to get her EOE diagnosis, even after complaining of constant pain when she swallowed food and having multiple trips to hospital with food stuck in her esophagus. She now needs monthly dilations to try and widen her severely damaged esophagus. 2-year-old Ari, also living with EOE, struggles daily with eating as he gags, chokes or vomits nearly every meal. He has since developed a food aversion and prefers pureed foods. Madeline had her first impaction at age 30, and the following impactions were almost weekly until finally she was diagnosed with EOE and began her treatment, which is a long process of trial and error. Currently, EGIDs can only be diagnosed and effectively monitored by having endoscopy with biopsies taken. 15-year-old Alexander was diagnosed with EOE at 14 months old, and he has had 29 endoscopies so far. These are just a few of the stories. EGIDs are chronic allergic inflammatory disorders that have increased in prevalence for EOE from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 2,000 people and rising in the 10 years since Aussie's foundation. There is currently no PBS listed medications specifically indicated for EGIDs, and we're excited about the pipeline treatments currently in development and under clinical trial around the world. Aussie Inc is Australia's peak national support and patient advocacy organisation representing Australians living with an EGID, including EOE. The impact EGIDs have on not just the individual but the whole family unit in every aspect of life is huge. We all live and hope for a more manageable way of living with an EGID, and ultimately, we hope for a cure. We are truly excited about the Centre for Research Excellence in Digestive Health as an opportunity for Australia to take research into eosinophilic disorders to the next level, as research is our best hope for a better future for Australians living with EGIDs. Thank you.
At the International Foundation for Gastrointestinal Disorders, we are thrilled to hear that the Centre for Research Excellence in Digestive Health has been funded. With our focus on chronic gastrointestinal illness, we look forward to working with the team in Australia and in informing our patients of the much-needed improvements to the diagnosis and treatment of these common conditions. My name is Cecile Rooker, and I am the President and Executive Director for IFFGD. We look forward to working with Dr. Nick Talley and other experts from around the world to help further the knowledge and advances in the science in gastrointestinal disorders.
Hi, my name is Mark Grant and I'm a patient at the Princess Alexandra Hospital in Brisbane. I was diagnosed with functional dyspepsia several years ago, however I've suffered it for quite a few years before that, decades before that, but it got to a point where I had to start doing something about it. It's impacted my life so much that even with the treatment that I'm on, it's not really knocking it down. I can be laying down or sitting in the lounge and belch and I get a mouthful of bile. That happens quite often and it's quite uncomfortable and it's distressing, not to mention the stomach problems, pains and discomfort that I have round the clock virtually. I've undergone many tests, trials and treatments to try and find something that'll work. However, what I'm on now is just doing enough to keep it at bay. So that's all I can say about it. However, I was quite excited to hear that the new Research Centre for Digestive Health, Research Excellence in Digestive Health, has focus on conditions like this. It is reassuring to see there's a recognition out there that conditions like functional dyspepsia are going to be given top priority in terms of research that aims at finding out what is causing it and what cures can be or treat the symptoms better. I'm looking forward to seeing what discoveries will come out of the Centre of Research Excellence in Digestive Health and being able to access new treatments for my condition. This new centre gives hope not just for me but for many others that go through this discomfort, pain and embarrassment and more as much as anything, and hopefully one day we'll be free of symptoms. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know me well, I'm Geoffrey Metz. I'm Secretary General of the World Gastroenterology Organisation, a practicing physician and gastroenterologist in Melbourne, Australia, and a Professor of Medicine at the University of Melbourne and also at Monash University. I was delighted to be asked by Professor Nick Talley to take part in the launch of the Centre for Research Excellence in Gastrointestinal Disease, as I read through the proposed work schedule of the CRE, and I believe there are many synergies between the CRE and the things we do at the World Gastroenterology Organisation. The mission of the WGO is to promote an awareness of the worldwide prevalence and optimal care of gastrointestinal and liver disorders through high-quality research, education and training. Our education is direct through our member societies. It's also through running world congresses of gastroenterology and annual international congresses of gastroenterology where people get together, or prior to COVID-19 year, people got together to exchange ideas, to learn the latest in research and also medical practice. We have 115 member societies around the world, and those 115 societies have a total of over 55,000 gastroenterologists and hepatologists as their members. Since its establishment over 60 years ago, the WGO has been mainly involved in medical education worldwide, but over the past 20 years has been increasingly involved in training and in research. We have 23 training centres which are linked to their local member societies, but also many are closely linked to larger organisations such as the British Society of Gastroenterology, the American College of Gastroenterology, and the American Gastroenterology Association. Collaborative research we are involved in is mainly through those training centres, so that trainees learning gastroenterology from the experts are involved not only in learning about management of gastroenterology and hepatology cases, but also involved in research concurrently. The CRE has a very ambitious program, although I know the people involved and I know that the ambitious program will be completely within their ability. I've no doubt that their program will be achieved, and in doing so, there are a number of areas where the WGO would love to collaborate with the CRE productively, knowing the reach that we have and the expertise of the researchers involved in the CRE. I congratulate Nick and the board on the creation of the CRE. We wish you well in your endeavours, and we look forward very much to collaborating with you in advancing the knowledge and practice of gastroenterology through your research. Thank you very much.
The Centre for Research Excellence in Digestive Health is very keen to recruit patients and volunteers for our studies. We are doing community surveys, we are doing diagnostic studies, and we're also doing therapeutic trials of new treatments for some of these very common unexplained gut conditions. So if you were interested in being part of the centre in terms of participating in research, please let us know, and we'll be flashing up the website for you to log into to actually do this. So thank you again for supporting us and indeed for helping us progress this terribly important area of research and practice.